Hey guys, this is Blue Forest. I hope you're doing well. So I wanted to talk a little bit about gameplay and improvement, particularly if you're either struggling or if you're looking to reach the highest levels of the game. And I want to share something with you about myself that I'm sure you don't know that might actually be a little bit relevant to you if you're looking to get up to the highest levels. And that is the fact that I live with a disability, so I have cerebral palsy on one side of my body. And this means that things like my strength and my mobility is restricted on one side. Thankfully, it is a fairly mild case. So I am able-bodied, I'm able to live a normal life and work and everything, but it does have its challenges. Certain things are difficult. Things like typing, playing an instrument, doing any sort of intricate movement with my hand in particular is a lot harder. And that's actually very relevant for something like this, like a mobile game, because it means that I have to play with one hand. Okay? And that's obviously less than ideal. This game is meant to be played with both hands, holding your phone or your tablet with both hands to control your bots, using each thumb, most likely. But for me, I've had to teach myself to play with a few fingers of one hand. And when I first started this game, it was incredibly difficult. I thought I was going to have to give it up. But just as a sort of fun personal challenge, I thought, okay, maybe I can get better. And I just started practicing, and over time, I did get better. I was able to start doing AMs, and then I was able to do LOC1, and then eventually I did LOC2, right? And I've been able to get up to the highest levels of the game. This is not because I'm the greatest player in the world. I'm not. It's just because I practiced a lot. I learned the game. I learned the AI. I learned how to play well. All right. Now, I want to say this is obviously just a game. This is not going to determine your success in life, being good at a video game. But it is something I'm proud of because it's a game that's obviously very time consuming and that a lot of us love. And so if I can reach the highest levels of the game, you certainly can too. Now, how does this affect me? Well, in terms of gameplay, it affects me primarily in a few ways. Number one, I am a little bit slower than I would be if I was able to play with both hands. This is a very fast-paced game. I'm not always able to react quite as quickly as I would otherwise. For that reason, I probably block a little bit more than the average person just to save myself. I'm willing to take a little bit of block damage sometimes, just if I'm not sure I'm going to be able to move my bot in time. It also means that the bots that I use are even more important. I have said this over and over again in my videos. You need to play with the bots that you feel are best for you. It is not about who somebody else says is the best. It's about who's best for you. That's super important for me. So I tend to struggle with range-based fighters, bots like Shockwave, Wasp, Starscream. It's harder because firing off basic range shots and then reacting is really difficult with one hand, right? Because basic range shots will often miss. And so, if you're firing them off and the opponent decides to, dodge and counter you, I often cannot get out of the way in time if I'm firing off lots of basic range shots. So I tend to focus more on melee-based fighters, and I'm also always looking for fighters that have a very good flow and rhythm, bots that are easy to get into a rhythm with, and bots that have some sort of defensive ability, actually, that can be helpful, right? So obviously I have my Soundwave at rank 6 and Sig 100. That shield helps me out, right? Bots with a lot of armor that also have good mobility, bots like OGP and MV1, very useful for me. Bots with very fast-paced style along with evasion. Bots like Tech B, bots like Sideswipe, I can do well with. Bots that have a certain gracefulness to them. Bots like Windblade, I can do well with. All those kinds of things are helpful to me, as well as, by the way, bots like Motormaster. I really like Motormaster. I wish, he had a little bit of a more comprehensive kit, but, his Unstoppable, very helpful for me because I know that my movements are going to be slightly delayed sometimes. And so any bot that I can find, any combination that I can find that will give me a bit of an advantage in those really difficult fights helps me out a lot. And so what I would like to do is we're going to take a look at a fight of me playing in AM's D100, and I want to go over a few of the things that I do to play really well despite my limitations. because there are certain things that I think are universal and will be helpful to everyone. So if you're struggling or if you want to kind of take that next step in your gameplay, we're going to go over a few things that might be helpful to you. So let's take a look at that, and then we will wrap up. All right, guys, so we're going to take a look at this fight. I'm using Soundwave against Jetfire. This is D100, okay? In general, I would actually say that Jetfire is one of the best bots in the game to practice against, because he's the only bot in the game who can both reflect your range shots but also stun you with melees. And so it's very risky to dash at him. And the tactic that we all use or like to use, where you're firing off a few basic range shots and then attacking, that's often risky as well. So it's harder to find openings with him. But as you can see, what I'm doing in this fight is I am almost entirely attacking by countering. That means that this fight will take a little bit longer, but it's a much cleaner fight as a result, okay? I am allowing my shield to give me a layer of protection, but, and right there, I did go for the reflection, but I can't over-rely on it. The shield is not active all the time, and it doesn't reflect 100%. And so, here what I'm doing is, I'm making good use of distance, right? It's a lot harder to dodge those constant range shots of his, particularly on the mod that he's on, when you're up close to him. And so, Jetfire, he tends to be aggressive but also predictable, so I'm trying to take advantage of that, right? Now, as you can see, one thing that I do have to do a little bit more than some people is block, just because I'm not always able to get out of the way as quickly as I would if I was playing with both hands. But that's okay. In AMs, it's about fighting as cleanly as you can and staying alive, which, in this fight, I'm clearly able to do. By the way, there was a glitch right there with his special 3 where he ended up eating a hit after I launched the special 3. Sometimes that happens with Soundwave special 3, and it's very annoying, but it's all right. So anyway, I am making selective use of moving around and blocking at the same time in order to get Jetfire to either dash at me or use a special so that I can counter. And by doing that, I'm able to land attacks repeatedly, and I'm able to get into a very good flow and rhythm. In high-level AMs, they are so dangerous and so deadly that just a couple of basic shots could kill you. Certainly a single special or single heavy could kill you, even from 100%. And so it's all about getting into a really good rhythm and never losing your patience. I don't care how long this fight has to last. I am not going to allow my impatience to get the better of me, because if I decide to get aggressive, he's almost always going to find an opening and take me down. And so, we're wrapping up here. We're getting close to the end. And, one other thing that is very helpful in terms of keeping your distance is the fact that you will see them sort of telegraph their attacks more. When you're up close to them, it's not always totally clear what they're going to do next. But when you have distance, you can kind of see them position themselves about a split second before they dash or attack. That's very helpful as well. Right? So right now he's at 2%, and look what happens. Okay, so that was a situation where I actually did click the special button at the exact same moment he did, and he got it. That just happens sometimes, but overall, it was a very clean fight, and I did well. And so we're going to wrap up. All right, guys, so I just want to wrap up with a couple of tips with respect to gameplay. Just a couple of fundamental things that'll be helpful to any player, no matter where you are in the game and where you're trying to go. So number one, as I said, when it comes to difficult fights, longer fights, it's all about being patient. The best players will tell you that waiting for openings, attacking selectively is going to get you really far in this game. If you're just trying to be hyper aggressive and beat opponents with brute force, you're not going to do well. Yes, there are amazing players who can play incredibly fast and aggressive. If you've seen somebody like MUFC 14, he's able to play hyper fast and he's great at it. But I personally cannot do that. A lot of people can't do that, and you don't have to do that, right? So that means as I have said before, it's all about getting your defensive game down, learning to counter over and over and over again, getting your sidestepping, your backstepping game down, learning how to anticipate the opponent's attacks, practicing against the hardest opponents for you over and over again, because they do tend to be at least somewhat predictable, particularly, by the way, the most aggressive bots. And also, probably the best thing that you can do, I know I've said this before, is just simply do really challenging content. So if you haven't done LOC1, that means you're practicing against Mixmaster and Sideswipe over and over again. If you haven't done LOC2, you're practicing against bots like Primal. If you haven't done LOC3, that means you just go up against one bot. You don't have to win the first time, but go up against that first bot on the lane and just get to the point to where you're not getting destroyed. And once you do that, you're going to see significant improvement in your gameplay. And as I mentioned before, the most important thing that you can do is to invest in bots that you personally play very well with. Please do not listen to what other people tell you are best. It's about who you play best with, because things like flow, getting into a rhythm, and the abilities of the bots. Some abilities are going to work better for you than others. And remember, you always want to be thinking about offense and defense. It's not only about damage in this game. Defensive abilities of bots can be very helpful. And so if you do all of that, you will make significant progress. I guarantee you, okay? Because, look, I have gone from doing D40s to D95 to 100 in less than a year, despite my limitations, and it can be really hard, but I've been able to do it, and I guarantee that you can do it as well. Many of you can be better than me for sure. If you challenge yourself, you learn the AI, you learn the way that the bots kind of, counter you and attack you and all of that stuff, and you invest your resources wisely into bots that you play well with, you're going to do phenomenally well in this game, okay? I mean, like I said, this is just a game. If I sucked at this game, it would have zero effect on my life, but it's a hobby, and in your hobbies in life, you want to do well at your hobbies. And so, if I've been able to do so, I guarantee you can as well. So I hope that this has been helpful and informative. If you have any questions, do let me know, and we will speak again soon.